Leaking elixir. This single mistake is costing you hundreds of trophies, and you probably don't even know you're doing it. But by the end of this video, you'll understand why some players climb effortlessly while others stay stuck forever. Elixir leaking happens when you hit the 10 elixir cap and waste the continuous generation. Every 2.8 seconds during single elixir time, every 1.4 seconds in double elixir, you're literally throwing away free resources. In 2025's fast cycle meta with Hog EQ cycle decks averaging 2.6 elixir, this mistake is deadly. While you're sitting there thinking about your next move, your opponent is building game-ending pushes. Cards like Hog Rider or Balloon become unstoppable when you hand over elixir advantages. If you're unsure about your next play in a matchup against a log bait deck, sitting idle for even 5 to 10 seconds can grant your opponent a +3 to +4 elixir advantage. This lets them deploy Goblin Barrel or Princess without fear of immediate counter. The impact gets amplified in Arena 11 and higher, where precise resource management determines tower trades. October 2025, balance changes nerfed over 10 cards to promote faster gameplay. Beginners often leak due to indecision with new evolutions like Royal Ghost Evo, which summons soldiers. Always deploy low-cost cycle cards like Ice Spirit or Skeletons when hitting 10 elixir. This maintains pressure and scouts opponent responses instead of wasting resources. Consistent leaking can drop you hundreds of trophies as it compounds into elixir disadvantages that snowball into lost matches. But if you think wasting elixir is bad, wait until you see how one simple placement error can instantly lose you the game. Bad troop placement. This mistake turns your best defensive cards into free elixir for your opponent, and it's happening in every single one of your games. Bad placement means deploying defensive units too far forward, near the bridge or opponent's side. Your troops get exposed to unnecessary damage from enemy crown towers before they can do their job. In 2025, with upgraded Princess Towers prioritized for level 15 upgrades using wild cards from events, placing cards like Musketeer or Evolved Valkyrie aggressively gives opponents free value. Their tower chips away at your unit's hit points before it even engages the threat. You're basically paying full price for half the defensive value. Against a Goblin Machine push, placing an Inferno Dragon too high up lets the opponent's tower target it early, potentially killing it with just a few shots. This leaves you vulnerable to the machine's rocket damage while wasting your counter. This error is common in higher arenas where air-heavy metas and Evolved Balloon require precise placements. Recent nerfs to cards like Vines reduce damage and stun duration, making proper placement even more critical. Poorly positioned counters can't compensate for weakened card interactions. Always position supports deep near your own towers to assist with infinite damage at 0 elixir cost. Use center placement to kite enemies, or back placement to build value safely. Practice pulling a Hog Rider to the center with a cannon to leverage tower advantage, and avoid overextensions that turn defenses into elixir sinks. But this next mistake is so common that even some pros fall for it occasionally, spamming troops at the bridge without support. You're basically handing your opponent free counter pushes every single time you do this. This means deploying win conditions or swarm units straight into opponent territory alone. Cards like Royal Hogs or Goblin Gang get sent directly to their death with no backup. They get easily countered by splash damage cards or buildings. You waste elixir and get 0 tower damage in return. In 2025, meta with evolutions like Evo Wall Breakers encouraging offensive play, this mistake feeds counter pushes with surviving troops. A Valkyrie for 4 elixir easily wipes out your 5 elixir Royal Hogs, giving your opponent an elixir advantage plus surviving troops for their counter push. In a matchup against log bait, bridge spamming minions without air support gets destroyed. Cards like Arrows or Electro Spirit shred unsupported air units for easy +2 elixir trades. This gets especially punishing in Legendary Arena, where balanced decks average 3.0 to 3.5 elixir costs and punish unsupported aggression. Recent balance changes increased Evolved Baby Dragon cycle requirements, highlighting the need for thoughtful builds over spam. Always start pushes from the back with tanks or distractions. Add support like Musketeer or Freeze to ensure your win condition reaches the tower. Use cheap cycles like Skeletons to scout defenses first before committing major resources to a push. The next mistake literally hands your opponent free elixir every single time. Over-defending small threats. Your panic reactions are feeding your opponent so much free elixir they could buy a Tesla. This happens when players panic and use expensive counters on tiny enemy units, like using Valkyrie for on skeletons or spear goblins. These negative elixir trades accumulate into massive disadvantages over the match. You're basically paying premium prices for basic defense when your towers can handle it for free. In 2025, with maxed Princess Towers providing free damage support, this panic response is completely unnecessary and wastes precious resources. Against a bait deck deploying Goblin Gang, overcommitting with a Fireball for 4 Elixir instead of dropping a cheap troop in the middle and letting your tower handle it. This allows your opponent to follow up with an unchallenged Goblin Barrel since you already used your spell. This error is common in mid-ladder arenas where beginners overlook tower value. Your towers deal infinite damage without any elixir cost, but players ignore this massive advantage. October 2025's nerfs to oppressive cards like Evolved Wall Breakers emphasize matching threat levels and over-defending feeds into opponent bait strategies. Let towers solo small units that deal under 200 damage to save elixir for real threats. Save heavy hitters like Mega Knight for actual pushes like giant double prince combinations. This preserves elixir for offense, turning defenses into advantages instead of elixir sinks. But this next error is so devastating it can cost you an entire tower in seconds. Dumping all elixir in one lane. You're about to see how tunnel vision turns guaranteed wins into instant losses. This means committing your entire elixir pool to a single push or defense. You leave the opposite lane completely undefended and vulnerable to split lane pressure. Cards like Hog Rider or Miner get free tower damage while you're focused elsewhere. In the 2025 update with new champion cycles, allowing multiple champions without the old 3-card restriction, this mistake becomes lethal. Savvy players exploit this weakness with dual lane strategies in decks like Royale Recruit Split. Stacking a Golem push with Night Witch and Electro Dragon in one lane, while your opponent pressures the other with a cheap Hog Rider for 4 elixir forces an impossible choice. You're forced to ignore one attack, potentially losing an entire tower to either push. This gets critical in high where elixir management dictates match flow. October balance changes, nerfed cards like Vines for less stun control, making split defenses essential. This mistake compounds with poor cycle tracking and drops trophies rapidly through preventable tower losses. Always reserve 2 to 3 elixir for cross-lane responses using cheap units like Knight or Ice Golem. Handle threats without full commitment to maintain lane balance. Build habits by practicing split pushes yourself to ensure balance play that adapts to modern dynamic metas. This seemingly harmless habit is actually sabotaging every single one of your games, wasting cards and spells without purpose. You're throwing away wins without even realizing it, and your opponent is laughing all the way to the top. This means deploying cards randomly without any strategic intent whatsoever, like zapping a furnace unnecessarily or adding extra troops to a failing push that's already dead. You're feeding opponents elixir advantages without gaining any value or advancing your strategy. Your gameplay becomes non-existent and you're just reacting mindlessly to whatever appears on screen. In 2025, with lucky chests offering guaranteed rewards like Royal Ghost Evo shards, intentional play becomes key to maximizing progression rewards. Blindly fireballing a princess at the bridge when it's not threatening wastes 4 elixir for nothing. This allows your opponent to cycle faster in log bait decks and bait your spells for Goblin Barrel follow-ups. This mistake erodes leads in mid-ladder arenas where every interaction should bait, defend, or pressure with specific purpose. Nerfs to Evolved Baby Dragon increased its cycle requirements. Punishing autopilot plays harder than ever. Players add backup troops to pushes that are already dead, compounding elixir losses instead of cutting their losses. Ensure every deployment has clear intent to bait, defend, or pressure with specific goals. Use log to clip tower damage only if it hits multiple units, avoiding purposeless spell cycling. This builds elixir edges and enables stronger offenses instead of throwing away resources randomly. The next mistake literally gives your opponent a third cannon for the entire game. Free King Tower activation. You're about to give your opponent a permanent upgrade that lasts the entire match, and they didn't pay a single elixir for it. This involves misplacing cards like Goblin Barrel or Miner, where opponents can pull them to their King Tower with Tornado or Log. This activates their King Tower early for a permanent third defensive cannon that boosts defense against both air and ground pushes. The King Tower provides additional firepower for the entire remaining game duration. In 2025, with evolutions like Skeleton Army Evo enhancing swarm pressure, this gives opponents a massive defensive edge that makes win conditions much harder to connect. Throwing a Goblin Barrel centrally allows a tornado pull, activating the King Tower. This turns your offense into their permanent defensive advantage in bait matchups for the rest of the game. This makes win conditions like Balloon much harder to connect since they now have 3 defensive structures targeting your threats. This impacts all arenas but completely cripples high-level play in Legendary Arena, where small advantages determine match outcomes. Use edge throws for Goblin Barrel or bait pull spells first before committing to central placements. Consider activating your own King Tower if it benefits your deck archetype and defensive needs. This maintains offensive pressure without giving away permanent advantages that can cost you the entire game. This next mistake doesn't even happen during the gameplay, but it's destroying your rank. Tilting after losses. Your emotions are costing you more trophies than your actual gameplay mistakes combined. Tilting means emotional frustration leading to impulsive, terrible plays that destroy your logical decision-making. Players start spamming troops randomly or quit matches before they end out of pure anger. This compounds errors and drops trophies unnecessarily through bad decision-making driven by emotions instead of strategy. Your logical thinking gets completely replaced by angry button mashing and revenge mentality. In Clash Royale, maintaining composure accelerates progression through consistent play rather than emotional streaks. After losing to a Mega Knight counter, tilting might cause random bridge spamming in the next game. This ignores deck synergies and hands opponents easy wins through predictable emotional plays instead of strategic thinking. This mindset flaw affects all players but hits beginners in lower arenas like Goblin Stadium hardest, preventing learning from mistakes. You become too angry to think clearly about what actually went wrong. Supercell's loading tip literally says take a break after losses because they know this destroys player performance. Pause, breathe, or review replays to identify actual fixes instead of emotional reactions to losses. Turn losses into growth opportunities by analyzing what went wrong strategically rather than emotionally. A calm approach builds resilience and maintains consistent trophy climbing. If this video is helping you realize your mistakes, hit subscribe so you don't miss the advanced strategies coming up. Not watching replays. There's a button in your game that could make you climb 1,000 trophies overnight, but you never click it. This means skipping post-match analysis and missing crucial insights into your gameplay patterns. You repeat the same misplays like bad placements or elixir waste over and over in every game. Instead of improving from losses, you just queue up and make identical mistakes without learning anything. Your gameplay stays completely stagnant because you never identify what actually went wrong in your matches. In 2025, with tools like TV Royale for pro replays, ignoring analysis hinders adaptation to metas like Lavaloon Miner Bait and other evolving strategies. Losing to a hog push without noting your Tesla misplacement means you'll repeat the exact same flaw next time. You'll face the same strategy again and make the exact same positioning error that costs you the tower. This becomes crucial in arenas like Royal Arena where strategies constantly evolve and adaptation determines success. Players miss obvious patterns in their losses that cost them multiple games with preventable mistakes. Watch every loss and note at least one specific improvement you can make next time. Practice against AI with opponent decks to understand their win conditions and timing. This transforms failures into skills and learning opportunities instead of repeated frustrations that stall your progress. This spending mistake is keeping you stuck in the same arena for months, wasting gems on chests and emotes. You're literally buying your way into staying bad at this game instead of improving. This means spending precious gems on low-value chests or cosmetic emotes that provide no competitive advantage. Gems are incredibly rare resources that should maximize your card collection growth and upgrade potential. Instead, players impulse buy lightning chests or funny emotes that do absolutely nothing for gameplay improvement. This stalls progression because gems are much better used for high reward challenges that offer superior value. In 2025, with lucky chests replacing drops for guaranteed shards, smart spending becomes more important than ever for efficient progression. Spending 250 gems on a lightning chest yields minimal cards compared to a 10-gem classic challenge that offers much better rewards. The gem to reward ratio becomes completely backwards when you buy chests instead of entering challenges. This impacts free-to-play players in mid-arenas the most, delaying crucial upgrades that determine competitive viability. Emote additions create temptation with cosmetic purchases, but grand challenges for 100 gems offer top rewards that actually improve your deck. Challenge rewards far exceed chest value in both cards, and gold for progression. Focus gems on tournaments and challenges for maximum card, and gold rewards that actually improve your gameplay. Save impulse spending for after you've maxed your deck through efficient gem usage. This accelerates collection and enables climbing ladders efficiently in 2025's competitive environment. Your deck is probably broken and you don't even realize it. Ignoring card synergies in deck building. You're bringing a knife to a gunfight because your cards hate each other. This means assembling decks with completely mismatched cards that don't work together at all. You lack combos that amplify your cards' strengths and cover their obvious weaknesses. Your deck has no clear win condition or supporting strategy to actually damage towers. Against coordinated opponents with synergistic decks, you get steamrolled because your cards fight against each other. In 2025, with evolutions like Royal Ghost Evo requiring specific supports like skeletons for guarding, random deck combinations crumble against organized strategies. Pairing Hog Rider without cycle support like Ice Spirit or Log fails against defenses because your win condition has no way to reach the tower consistently. This becomes vital in higher arenas where metas demand balanced average elixir costs between 3.0 to 4.0 for competitive viability. Cards like Royal Ghost Evo need skeletons for guarding to function properly, and ignoring these requirements makes evolutions useless in your deck. Center your deck around one clear win condition with 2 to 3 supports covering weaknesses and enabling connections. Use Deck Shop for analysis to check synergy ratings and balance your average elixir cost. This ensures reliability instead of hoping for lucky matchups against poorly constructed opponent decks. Everyone thinks copying pros is smart, but it's actually making you worse. Copying pro decks without understanding. You're using a Formula 1 car but driving it like a shopping cart. This means blindly copying pro decks without grasping their synergies or required playstyles. Pro decks are built for specific metas and require deep understanding of rotations and timing. They fit particular playstyles that might not match your skill level or personal preferences at all. It's like using advanced surgical tools when you need basic first aid knowledge. Post-October nerfs to medium cost cards completely change how these meta decks function in actual gameplay. Adopting a Hog EQ cycle from Royale API without knowing rotations gets you countered easily by experienced opponents. You don't understand when to cycle, when to commit resources, or how to defend properly, with the deck's specific cards. This affects mid-ladder players who need personal adaptation over blind meta copying for consistent success. Pro decks assume perfect execution that most players simply can't maintain consistently. The strategy behind card choices gets completely lost in translation from pro gameplay to your matches. Test decks in training mode first, watch pros actually play them in real matches, then tweak for your personal style. Understanding the reasoning behind each card prevents clueless play and random decision making. This prevents blindly copying from dropping your trophies in 2025 meta environment. This predictable playstyle makes you the easiest opponent ever. Playing cards into known hard counters. Playing cards into known hard counters. You're basically announcing your moves to your opponent and asking them to counter you perfectly. This means deploying win conditions when opponents have revealed perfect stoppers in their previous plays, like sending Royal Hogs when you've already seen them play Fireball in their rotation. You're giving them easy defensive value and setting up their devastating counter push with surviving troops. It's the equivalent of running straight into a brick wall repeatedly and expecting different results. This mistake invites complete disasters and easy opponent victories. Pushing when your opponent has Tesla without forcing it out first wastes elixir on predictable, easily stopped attacks. You hand them positive elixir trades while accomplishing absolutely nothing offensively for your efforts. This becomes critical in Legendary Arena, where experienced players track your cycle and counter accordingly with perfect timing. Players ignore obvious counters in their opponent's hand and attack anyway out of impatience, feeding easy defensive value. Track opponent cycles carefully and bait out counters before committing your win condition to attacks. Force them to use their Tesla or Mega Knight on something else first, creating windows for safe pushes. This enables safe attacks instead of feeding their defensive value and counter push potential. You're missing free wins because you're not paying attention to this. Ignoring opponent's cycle. There are windows where your opponent literally cannot defend you, but you never attack during them. This means pushing without noting what's currently in your opponent's rotation or hand. You waste golden opportunities when their key counters are completely out of their current hand cycle. Mental tracking of their 4-card cycle determines exactly when you can safely attack without facing perfect counters. With 3-card champion cycles removed from the game, cycle tracking becomes actually simpler than before. You're missing guaranteed damage windows by attacking at completely random times instead of strategic moments. Attacking with Battle Ram, when their cannon is out of rotation, misses free damage opportunities to the tower. You could have connected for significant tower damage, but attacked when they had perfect defense ready in hand. This impacts players at all skill levels who don't count their opponent's played cards throughout the match. Evolution editions like Skeleton Army require precise cycle awareness for optimal timing. Mental tracking separates good players from those permanently stuck at mid-ladder ranks. Count their key defensive cards carefully. remembering that 4 cards after they play means it's out of rotation temporarily. Time your attack safely when you know their main counters aren't currently available in hand. This turns reactive gameplay into dominant, proactive pressure that controls match tempo. This final mistake turns guaranteed wins into devastating losses. Defending when you should go all in. You're about to learn when giving up defense completely is actually the smartest play possible. This means half committing to defending completely unstoppable pushes instead of racing for tower trades. You drain elixir fruitlessly, trying to stop something you simply can't handle with your current hand. Instead of launching full counter offense, you waste precious resources on hopeless defense that accomplishes nothing. In 2025, with the nerfs promoting exciting gameplay, this strategy equalizes tough matchups through smart tower trading. Sometimes accepting tower damage and going for the trade becomes the winning play that saves the match. Against overwhelming threats like Mega Knight supported pushes without proper counters, going all in for tower trades often works favorably for your position. Your defensive cards can't stop their overwhelming push anyway, so they become completely wasted elixir that could have won you the race. This becomes a key strategy in high-stakes games where tower trading becomes inevitable based on deck matchups. Players panic and over-defend instead of recognizing race scenarios that favor aggressive counterattacks. This decision-making separates advanced players from those who always defend regardless of the situation. Assess your current hand carefully, and if defense is inefficient or completely impossible, commit to full attack mode instead. This avoids 3 crown losses by forcing your opponent to defend instead of supporting their overwhelming push with additional troops. Race situations often favor the player who commits first and hardest to the offensive strategy.